morning and welcome to this webinar. My name is Marieke Smit and I'm the Chief Educational Specialist at Impact for Hospitality Studies. We just want to give a few seconds for everybody to join the webinar. Good morning once again. My name is Marieke Smit and I'm the Chief Education Specialist at Impact for Hospitality Studies. Today we are going to discuss the PAT waiter task, which are very important with the chef task for the PAT. So before we start, I just want to go through a few basic things for you to use this webinar. I think by this time everybody knows how it works, but let's go through it quickly. If you can't hear me, please turn up your volume and you will be automatically muted when the session starts. You can also ask questions by raising your hand in the box, or you can use the question box to type questions there if you want to. You will also find all this information in the question box below on your right, and you can send us all your questions afterwards if it doesn't get to your question during the session. Attendees are encouraged to ask questions and leave comments. However, irrelevant or inappropriate comments will result in an attendee being dismissed from the session. You can also send email to academics@impact.co.za if you have any questions after the session. And you can also get the answers to all the questions through this session at info@impact.co.za if you don't get the questions afterwards. And then I also want to remind you about the Impact YouTube channel, which you can get all these recordings after the sessions and of all the other previous sessions. Okay, let's start with the PAT waiter. Just to confirm that the PAT task consists of two tasks. Task 12.1, which is the written preparation, and that counts 25% of the PAT mark. And the task 12.2 is the practical, which counts 75% of the PAT mark. And both PATs can be done. That means the chef and the waiter PAT can be done on one day or on 2 different days if you prefer that. So you can just discuss that with your assessor. I just want to remind you about the assessment methods again, because we did discuss it in the previous PAT webinar, but there's 2 ways of assessing the PAT. In the first place, you can do it through an Impact assessment, and that means that Impact will make all the arrangements. We will send out the email, and we will give you an email address where you can send your proof of payment to book your space. This payment is for the parents and the guidance account, and the payment is made to Impact. And the assessors attending that sessions will write their registration number on the barcoded cover page for Impact to accept the marks. And just remember that there's limited space available because we use schools' kitchens through the country. Then you can also use the private assessment, and that is where you get your own assessor and the learner makes all the arrangement, or the parent with the assessor. So to find one or to approve an assessor, you can just send an email to assessors@impact.co.za. And this payment is also for the parents and the guidance account, and it's a private arrangement between the 2 parties. So just take note that Impact has nothing to do with this arrangements. Then also the assessors needs to write their registration number on the barcoded page for Impact to accept the marks, and the assessor marks both tasks. That means grade 10 and 11, they must mark the chef and the PAT, the written and the practical tasks. So all 4 tasks must be marked by the assessor. Okay, and then just a quick view on the PAT dates that is planned for this year. You will see that the first one is on 23rd of May in Western Cape, but at this moment we're not certain what is going to happen with the lockdown, but we will inform you. So just check your emails for more information nearer to that date, please. Then the assessors for grade 10 to 12, and take note, this is for grade 10 to 12. The requirements is the same, and you need appropriate qualification in this study field. Also 3 years experience in teaching grade 12 And this is not in a tutor center, but in a school where there is moderation done by DBE, Sakai, or IEB. And it can't be a chef, so it must be a teacher, and therefore they has to have a SACE number. So that's the requirements for the assessors. Okay, now let's get to the tasks. First of all, the task 12.1 is your written preparation. So if we look at the preparation forms, which are very important, and some of the kids, they don't complete this properly, and then they lose a lot of marks. So this is very important that you complete it and fully complete it properly so that you can get 25 out of 25 if possible. So the first page on the preparation forms is your, in the planning, is where you must write your name there, your student number, and your center name. Just make sure that you fill in all the information. We do get that kids don't fill in this information, and it's important because sometimes the papers get lost, and then we don't know which task is this or whose task is this. So the first one that you need to do on this page, oh sorry, I just want to refer you to this first. Make sure if you submit your task or hand in your task at the assessor, that you complete all these 5 points here, and make sure that that is part of your task, because sometimes the kids forget to hand in number 4 or number 2, and then they lost a lot of marks unnecessary. So please make sure that you hand in everything that we expect from you. Okay, so in the first place, you need to look at your menu. Now you will find this menu in your task, and this is the menu that is prescribed for the grade 10s for this year. So you can just type it and paste it there, or you can rewrite it. It doesn't matter as long as you do the full menu in this block here. Then what we expect from you is to tell us when will this course be served. So what time will this course be served? So you can do it as in my example, and you can write your menu here on this side, and then just next to it, you must write, for example, let's say in the first place here for grade 10, it's hors d'oeuvre, and that's the chicken crepes, which is pancakes, and we will serve that about 7 o'clock. And then I did write a note here for you, so just remember that for every course we use more or less in half an hour, and for the main course we will allow an hour because they still need to eat a lot of food there. It's your main course. So if you take that guidelines, and then the next one in this menu, let's say it's sorbet, will then be served 19:30. So 30 minutes after that, you will serve the next course. And then the main course will be served at 8 o'clock, and then at 9 o'clock your dessert. So you must just write the time there and your menu there. So that's actually very easy. Then here at the bottom, it's very important to give a short description, but a full description, so that the guests know exactly what they are going to eat of each of these dishes on the menu. So this is very important, especially when the waiter is serving in a restaurant and the people are allergic to some ingredients or whatever. So then it's very important that the waiter know exactly what is in each dish, so that they can't serve food to people which they are allergic to. So what you are going to do, yes, in the past we gave the recipes here, but we don't do that anymore. So you have to do a little bit of research on each of these dishes mentioned on the menu. So let's say, for example, chicken crepe with honey and mustard sauce. So in a crepe, you will know that there's flour, so people can be allergic to gluten. And therefore, if you do some research and let's say you look for about 2 to 3 recipes of pancakes, then you can use that as a guideline to describe it here, and also to mention the ingredient. And take note, it's not the gluten, but it's the flour. We want the ingredient or the milk, and it's not the lactose. It means that you must write down the ingredient that people are allergic to. You can also always write flour and in brackets gluten. That's also fine. So for the description, it's not just a pancake. It's a pancake or a flour mixture or a pastry, shallow fried in a pan and served with chicken cooked in, let's say, white wine and mixed with honey and mustard sauce. So you must describe it so that the guests know exactly what they are going to eat. So that's the first page. And just make sure you must use this prescribed menu. You can't use your own one. I also want to mention here that, excuse me, the kids can't use the dishes that they are going to cook in the chef to do this. And that normally they do that. These two tasks have nothing to do with each other. It's like two different functions. So therefore, you must use the menu that we prescribe in the task. So please take note of that. Okay, the second page is your planning. This means everything, it's your planning, so it's everything before the guests arrive that the waiter must do. So this is just the example. So just a short description of what you need to do, and this will help the learners to remember everything while they're busy doing the PAT. Like for instance, sometimes they forget to put the napkins on the table, or they don't steam the glasses, or they don't polish the cutlery. So this is just a small list for you and a short list of what you need to do before the guests arrive and before you start laying the table. So let's go through this example. So let's say, for example, at 6 o'clock, you start with your mise en place. It's like an evening function, or in this case, maybe you will start earlier, but this is just an example. It's a very short time here, but just make sure you've got 3 hours, and before you start until the end of the menu and serving and the guests leave, then there's 3 hours for that. So do your mise en place, and that means move the tables in position, open the window, switch on the lights, etc. All those things that needs to be done in the restaurant. Then take out all the apparatus, fold your napkins, polish your cutlery, and steam your glasses, and then etc. All the other things that you need to do. This is not everything. It's just an example for you. Then let's say the guests arrive at 7 o'clock. So just before 7, we're going to light the candles if necessary. And then we're also going to take the cocktails to the reception where there's a table for the guests to get the cocktails. So we will take it to the reception just before the guests arrive. And just take note again that it's before the guests arrive. That's the planning of your table and laying the table and getting the restaurant ready. Okay, so the next one is the cover. And a lot of kids draw the whole table here, which is wrong. We only want you to write or to draw a cover, which means one set place per person, and that's only for one person. And then also a very big mistake that they always make is they don't label the diagram or the cover. It's very important that you label it so that we can know exactly what is where, and also for one complete cover. So in this case, if you look at the menu, you will see we have the hors d'oeuvres, then we have the sorbet, and then the main course. So if we go back to the cover, you will have your hors d'oeuvres, which is the pancake. Then for the sorbet spoon, I prefer to serve the spoon with the sorbet, so I won't lay it on the table. But you can do it two ways. So the first one is to draw the spoon in here between the two knives, and just mention this sorbet spoon. But you can also just make a note like I did and say, okay, the sorbet spoon will be served with the sorbet. So then the assessor knows that you know what to do. So that, because that is wrong, but if you make a note there and you tell them about the sorbet spoon, then your cover is 100% correct, and then you will get your marks. So then we will have the dessert, and then your white wine, your red wine glass. I did have a question the other day. This 2/3 means that you will pour the glass 2/3 full, and this one is half the red wine. And then you have your side plate with your butter knife and your napkin and your underplate. So just make sure that everything is there, and don't draw the flowers and the salt and pepper and all the other stuff on the table. It's just this that we want on this in this question. Okay, then you have your opening mise en place, and this list will help you when you start doing your planning and get all your apparatus together in the beginning. And that's why it's very important to complete it properly so that you don't forget anything. So in the first place, they ask you the type and quantity of cutlery needed per cover. So let's say, for example, you're going to use one entree knife for the starter, in this case, the pancake. Then for 4 guests, and it's always according to the number of guests that you're going to serve. So let's say it's a function of 50 guests, then that will be 50 entree knives. So in your case, it will be 4 to 6. So 1 on tray knife for one cover, and then 4 for the table. And you will do the rest for the other courses. Then if you look at the coffee and tea services, you have to write down everything needed for the serving. So let's say, for example, for tea and coffee service, you will have the cups, the saucers, the doilies, the teaspoons, the sugar bowls, sugar spoons, milk jugs, the side plate for the coffee, the napkin for the coffee, and the coffee pot or teapot. So everything must be mentioned there. Then if we look at the bread service, the same there. So for the bread service, for example, we will have the bread basket. We will have dessert spoon and fork because we will use silver service, or you can use a futon, and then also the napkin. And then don't forget about the butter, a butter bowl or the butter knife, which must also go with the bread service. And then the crumbling down. Remember there that we need a side plate, a napkin, and also a dessert fork and spoon to do the crumbling down after the main course. Okay, so write down everything needed for those 3 servings there. Don't forget anything. Then if we look at the glasses, some of the kids, they use water glasses or champagne glasses, but that's not necessary. We can only use a white wine and red wine glass on the table. That's more than enough. So let's say, for example, in this case, we are going to use 4 white wine glasses. And let's say, for example, you can make this up. We are going to serve Chardonnay with it. So just mention or name the type of beverage that will be served. Don't just write there white wine, because that's not a type, or it's just wine. So just look at the example there. So we ask you to write down the name of the drink that you're going to serve there in the second column. Then in the third column, this is actually just to help you to remember everything. Some of the kids, they normally forget the table number, normally forget the salt and pepper. But if you write it down here, because just remember, you can use this preparation forms and your planning when you are busy laying the table. You're not allowed to use your textbook, but you can use your planning while you're busy with your table. So that's not a problem. So in this case, we will write down the tablecloth, the serviettes, let's say, for example, your flower arrangement, your salt and pepper, toothpicks, all the other things that you can normally forget easily when you're busy laying the table. And just mention there that the tablecloth, let's say, for example, is a round red table or a tablecloth, or white square serviettes or whatever. It's just for the storeman to take out these apparatus for you before you start doing your or laying your table. Okay, then the layout of the dining room or the restaurant. Because of the homeschool, we can only draw one table, but if you want to, you can do a restaurant. So that's also fine. Both ways is 100% correct. So if you look at this question, it's actually very easy to get your 3 marks. So don't throw away unnecessary marks. Just check there what we expect from you. So entrance, and just draw your entrance. Toilets, make sure that's in. Tables, there's your table, your chairs is in, your buffet, your bar, and I just put some plants in there just to make it nice, but it's not necessary. But yeah, that's actually what we expect of you. This can be the dining room where you do your actual pack if you want to, but you can also make this up. So it's not necessary to do it exactly that way. You can make this up. So we just want to see if you can do a layout of a dining room, especially when there's more than one table in the room. Okay, then your guest list. This is actually very easy for the kids to complete, but they normally forget the waiters' names, and they also forget the function and the date, and then they just get 1 because it's not complete. So make sure that you write in the function's name, the date, and then also the waiters for the tables, and your 4 guests or 6 guests, it doesn't matter, but at least 4, because that's what we expect from you. And then you will get your 2 marks. So actually, that's actually also very easy to get full marks there. Okay, and then the last one on this preparation forms is your bill. We will discuss the bill a little bit later, but you just have to complete it. You can make up all your own examples, and you can complete this bill before you go to the assessor. We just want to see that you can complete a bill. And because we don't have guests, and that's why you can complete it that time, it doesn't matter as long as you bring it and we can see that you can complete the bill. So in this case, for example, the table number, you can write in any table number that you want, your name, the waiter's name, and then also the number of guests on the table. So in this case, it will be 4. And then you can make up your own examples. I did my own here. So 1 times Coke is 12.50, 1 water 10 Rand, and 2 times Sprite is 15 Rand. And this is where the kids make a lot of mistakes. They don't multiply that by 2. So make sure that you write it there for yourself and that you remember to multiply it. Otherwise, you will lose a lot of profit at the end of the day in your restaurant. And then add up all these totals and you get the total for the bill. We don't want to bother with tips and things here because that will be decided when the guest pays. So don't worry about that. So that is the first task, the written preparation. Okay, Serena Jordan, she's assisting me with this webinar for the questions. So at this moment, Serena, if there's any questions, we can answer it about the preparation task.
There is some questions in the question box. The first one is, how come the pad does not show for Gauteng and when is that due?
Okay, about Gauteng, we have enough assessors to help with option 2s in the past. We are busy to organize or to talk to a school to get the kitchen, because in the past we did use Bastion Hoërskool, but we are trying to get a school in Pretoria to help us with this. So as soon as we have that information, we will send it through to you. And also with this lockdown, we will, I think we will be forced to have more option 1s for impact learners to help them after the lockdown so that everybody can do their PAT. And then I will discuss the dates for the submission of this PATs at the end. But just remember, we are recommending that you do 1 PAT in the first term and 1 PAT in the second term. But this doesn't count towards your term mark, and therefore we can do it and for grade 10 and 11 up till just before November examination. So there's no problem at the moment.
Okay. The next question is, can we write down a wine of your choice? I think this is with regards to the billing.
Yes, you can. You can. It's no problem. You can write down anything, any example.
And then the last question at this stage is, can our planning be in color?
Yes, you can. Just make sure that you don't use red or black, because we use that for moderation and marking.
Okay, that's the only questions at this stage that I can see.
Okay, thank you, Serena. Okay, now we can go to task 12.2, which is the practical. Okay, and I know this is a lot of points to read through, but I'm going to do that because we do get that the kids don't read through this general guidelines. This is actually very important. You can find these guidelines in your task or in all 4 tasks in the beginning. The general guidelines will be there for the PAT. So for the waiter, first of all, just remember that your preparation is a preparation and no late preparation tasks will be accepted. So that means, let's say, for example, your PAT date is on the 20th of May. Then you have to submit that to your assessor before the 20th of May, or you must submit it on the 20th of May. You can't hand it in after the 20th of May because this is a preparation for your PAT. It must be done before you do the actual PAT. So just take note of that. If you make use of an impact assessment, then you will bring it on that day and we will take it, we will mark it and submit your marks. Then, bill of the drinks must be fully completed by learners' own examples and prices as discussed in the previous slide. Learners must be properly dressed according to requirements indicated in the task. We will just look at a few photos in a few slides further. So we will discuss the proper dressing code for a waiter. Learners must use the prescribed menu, so that's very important. I did mention it in the first few slides, and set the table accordingly for at least 4 to 6 guests. I know there's a few assessors that only ask the kids to lay 1 cover. That's not right. We don't want that. We want to see if you can lay the table, especially the glasses, if it's in line, and also your main course or your underplate, if that's in line. So you need to do it for 4 to 6, at least 4 to 6 guests. And we are testing in this PAT that you can lay the table according to our prescribed menu. So that's actually what we test in this PAT. Then the apparatus are supplied by learners themselves, unless stated otherwise in the PAT email or as arranged with the assessor. So in some cases, when we use some of the schools' kitchens, they do have hospitality studies, so they do have the apparatus, and we will let you know. Then you don't have to bring your own stuff. Otherwise, you must supply your own apparatus. Learners should bring their own trays, serving cloth, etc. This is the same as the above mentioned point, because if the schools have that, then you don't have to bring that. But we will mention that in the email that we will send out. Then learners must use the prescribed dishes and design their own menu for the table to match their themes. The menu is submitted with the task. Just take note that if in grade 12, we are scanning these tasks, so make sure that your menu can be scanned, or a photo is also fine. And I will discuss this menu just in the next few slides to tell you exactly what you must do there. Then learners must design their own table number matching the theme to place on the table. The table number is also submitted with the task. Also take note that you must be able to scan that for us to submit it with the task if you are in grade 12. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Photos must be taken as prescribed in the task and submitted with the task. This remains the responsibility of the learner unless otherwise arranged by the assessor. I just want to ask the assessors here, if there's some of you listening to this webinar, if the learner are busy laying the table, it's not, they can't take photos of themselves. So please assist with the photos. If it is the responsibility of the learner, but you must please help them with the photos so that we have the necessary proof that the PAT has been done and it has been done properly. Or if there's a few kids, then the other students can also help you with the photos. Just make sure that you have all the photos that we need. Then the assessors will assign each learner a number for identification during assessment. This is only in cases where there's more than 2 or 3 or 4 learners which we don't know, especially with the impact assessment. Then we do the numbers and we do the marks and the photos according to that number that we issue to you. Then assessments of, for example, serving of coffee, serving of wine, crumbling down, etc., can be done via role play if no guests are present. We normally use role play, and that means that, let's say, for example, you serve the coffee. Then you will serve the coffee, the cup and the saucers, but there won't be coffee inside. So the same with the wine. You will have a wine bottle in your hand or a bottle which looks like a wine bottle. You will just make the role play that you open it and pour it, but you won't pour wine into the glass. And I just want to say on this note, on this point, that please make sure on the photos, some of the kids, they just show with no apparatus in their hands, and let's say they're doing coffee service. I don't know, and the moderators and Sakai and Malusi don't know what you are doing if you're just showing with your hands. Please make sure that you have apparatus in your hands while busy doing the servings so that we can see on the photo what you are doing. Then the normal examination rules applies to this PAT. So there will be no eating or drinking during the PAT. There is a break between the 2 PATs or afterwards, and then you can eat or drink something. Learners may not leave the examination room before the assessor gives permission. So there will be no smoking, no eating, no drinking, no leaving the room before the assessor gives permission to do so. And then, very important, no persons other than the grade 10 and 11 learners will be allowed in the examination room. And please, if there's parents listening to this webinar, I know this is a weak or a difficult point, but when we do the impact assessments, sometimes the parents, they look through the windows and it's actually very funny. But just leave your kid there and we will do the assessment, and afterwards you can come and fetch them. It's really distracting when people are looking through the windows and so on. Please leave your kid there so that they can do the examination, and then afterwards you can talk to your kid and hear what was happening inside and whatever. So please, I ask you very politely help us with this point. And it's very important that we apply the normal examination rules to this pad. And then the last point here is that the impact assessment, the option ones that we call it the option one, will be a more or less 750 per learner, and that will be the assessment of both tasks. So, like I said in the beginning, normally with impact assessments, we do both tasks on one day, and then we will charge you 750 for that. You will pay that to impact, and we will assess both the chef and the waiter pad on one day. And then if it's a private arrangement, the 750 is more or less the going rate. But the private assessors, they don't work for impact, so they can charge whatever they like. It's an arrangement between you and them. So that is the general guidelines. Please make sure that you take note of all these guidelines. Okay, now when it's the day of your pad and you must bring the following for us, you must bring the following with you. First of all, the barcoded task covers for both pad tasks 11 and 12. This means it's for the chef, the written and the practical. So it will be 11.1 and 11.2, and then also 12.1, 12.2 on that day. Also, the mark sheets for both pads, that is for the chef and for the waiter. And then during the practical, we will take the photos, or the assessor will help you to take the photos. Then you also need to bring your own cover for your menu that suits your theme. So let's say, for example, here's an example for you on the picture. Let's say, for example, you take black, white, red, and roses. That's your theme. Then you will do your menu, the same, the cover, the outside of the menu, and your table number. And then the inside will be the first menu that I discussed there, the prescribed one. So the inside will be our prescribed recipes or dishes. So just make sure of that. So that's a good example for you. So you can choose your own theme and then lay your table according to that. And then also very important, correct clothing as described in the task. We will discuss that just now. Okay. Then your waiter uniform. It's very important that you will be dressed formal, because this is for 5-star. This is not for Wimpy or Spurs service. This is for 5-star. Informal, formal restaurants, so make sure that you are very neatly dressed. For the boys, you can see there's a good example. And then the girls, you can use pants or skirts. Doesn't matter as long as you are dressed properly as a waiter. We prescribe the waiter's uniform in the tasks. But for example, let's say you do have navy pants and navy waistcoats. Then it's also fine if you have a white shirt with it, because some restaurants will have different colors. But I'm very scared to say that you can just wear whatever you like, because we also want to have some discipline and also want to look professional when we go to these schools and do our assessments. So please stick to the guidelines in the task. Then just again, your prescribed menu, that's very important. And as I said in the beginning, you must do some research on each of these dishes, because we will ask you during the pad. Let's say, for example, what is a crepe? Then you have to explain to us. What is sorbet? Then you have to explain to us. So what is a velouté? You have to explain to us. So make sure that you know exactly what. Let's say, for example, French meringue. Chantilly cream, what is that? So you need to explain that to us during the pad. And then I just want to look through the mark sheets of the waiter quickly. So this is a guidance for you, or guideline for you on what will be tested on that day. So if we look at the personal appearance, first of all, you can get 4 out of 4 there. So make sure that all these things are 100% correct. No jewelry, nails must be clean and short, your hair. I just want to go back to the waiters. If you look at the hair there, this girl's hair is not correct, because if you look at the hair there, that can also go into the food. So this one is better, 100% correct. So make sure that all these small hair are also covered or neatly binded, and not loose small hair next to your neck or wherever. And then we are going to look at the opening mise en place. So that will be how you prepare the restaurant and lay the table. Is the tablecloth and the overlay clean and ironed? Is it right side up? Is it even overhang? Is it correct and neatly? The napkins, is it on the right place and is it folded correctly? All your items, like the side plates, the cutlery, glasses, is everything on the right places and on the right place on the cover. And then also things like that you clean the glasses and your decoration, is your table number, your menu, your salt and pepper, all those additional items, is it on the table? So that's 18 marks, that's quite a lot. So make sure of that. And then how you handle the guests, the communication, how you greet them, are you friendly, how do you communicate with your body language, and also do you know the menu? Like I discussed just a slide or two earlier, and the overall communication with the guests. In this case, it will be with the assessor and the other learners if it's, the PAT is assessed in a group. Then we will also look at the beverages and the service and cleaning of the beverages. So taking the orders, removing the unused glasses, pouring the beverage. Look at this opening at the table, the drink. So for example, if you serve the wine, you must walk anti-clockwise. The ladies first, glasses must be full correct level, like I said in the cover, 2/3 or a half. And then also the coffee service, how do you pour it anti-clockwise, ladies? For all the rules that apply to the serving, the kid must practice that and then do that on the day of the service. We'll also look at the serving and clearing of all 4 courses. It means that how do you, we'll give you marks for the carrying and handling of plates, clearing and carrying an empty plate. So all those things, how you do that on that day will be counting marks towards your PAT. And then we'll also look at the professionalism. That means, are you punctual? Do you start on time? Do you listen to the assessor? Do you help in the classroom? And also with the closing mise en place, especially when we are at other schools, do you help us? Do you offer your help and clean everything and pack everything away? And so that we can leave the class as we got it in the first place. So that is more or less what will be assessed on that day. Okay, and then at the end, during the practical, we will take some photos, and I just want to discuss that a little bit. If you look at these photos, first of all, this is the mise en place. So a lot of kids don't do this before they start laying the table. They just start laying the table, and they don't do the mise en place. You must put out all these things and, on a table or wherever for the assessor to see. Like in this case, there's your apparatus for the steaming of glasses, your coffee pot. Then your bowl and a pen and all the stuff that you need for that. Then your wine, your menu, your number, your salt and pepper, your bread basket and butter bowl, and also your linen that you're going to use. So pack that out, and also your cutlery can also be packed out here. So all your mise en place must be shown before you start laying the table. Then in this case, you can see it's the bread service. So that's what I meant earlier. You can't just stand there with nothing in your hands and just do that with your hands. That doesn't mean anything. So we need you to have a bread basket and have the dessert and spoon and fork in this case. Then your bowl, we want to see if you have sweeties and toothpicks and a pen with it. The wine serving here, the crumbling down, cover so that we can see that you lay the cover correctly and the spaces. We also want a picture of the clearing of the plates, your coffee service, and then a full-length photo of the waiter. So that is the photos more or less that we want from you. You can also take another photo of the whole table. In this case, not only the cover, but the whole table. So this was just the most important photos that I put on this slide. So yeah, that is your PAT, the practical. So Serena, in this case, if we have questions, we can answer that, please.
I'm just going to see if there's any other. There's no other questions in the question box at this stage that I can see.
Okay.
So I don't know if anybody else wants to ask a question.
Please raise your hand if you have a question about the practicals. Okay, so you can proceed then. No question. Okay, thank you. Okay, and then the last slide is very important. I do get a lot of inquiries about the PAT and the lockdown. First of all, the PAT doesn't count for the term marks, and on the assessment plan, the dates you will see for the PATs is actually just a recommendation according to the subject guidelines. So because of it doesn't count towards the term mark, we can do this, and we have permission to just postpone this a little bit because of the lockdown. So there's no need to worry at this stage. And then in this, on the next point, MPAC will continue to accept PAT marks because of the lockdown. So don't worry, we will accept the PAT marks. If you didn't do it yet, we will keep you up to date, and we are also unsure what is going to happen. But don't worry at this stage, there is still enough time to do it. Then my recommendation to you will be, please complete the written preparations, because those things are things that you can do in the meantime, especially the task 11.1, sorry, 11.1 and 12.1. So then you are done with that. And then you just keep it. And then when you go to assessor, or when we are allowed to go to assessors, then you can just take it with, then you're done with the written preparation. And in the meantime, they say practice makes perfect, and this gives us enough time to practice the recipes, practice the laying of the table. So do your preparation, and that's done then, and then practice, practice, practice. We do have a lot of kids that come to the practicals or to the PAT, and that's your final cooking and practical examination. And then they didn't even read through the recipe. Don't do that to yourself. This is actually 25% of your year mark, and that is a lot of marks. So please make sure that you practice. You have enough time this year to practice. So practice, practice, practice until we have more info about the assessment. And then please take note that an approved assessor must assess the grade 10 to 12 PAT, task 11.2 and task 12.2. I do get a lot of parents and centers asking if they can do it now, if the parents can do it now. There will be no bending of rules at this stage because of the lockdown. So the same rules apply, and we have enough time. If we do see that it becomes a problem, then we will give information through. So at this stage, no need to worry. Just follow the rules, follow the guidelines, and just be patient a little bit with the lockdown. So we will just see what will happen, and then we will inform you how we're going to take that and do that in future. And then MPAC will organize more opportunities. We did look at the planned dates, but at the moment we didn't send any emails yet because of the lockdown. But as soon as we have more information, and as soon as we have permission to do the assessments, we will send through an email. So just check your emails and the Facebook page. And if it's necessary, like we said about Gauteng, we will organize more opportunities to help everybody to complete the PAT. So yeah, at this stage, if there's any questions, I can also answer that. If you don't want to ask a question now, you can please send us an email, and then we can also help you. And yeah, I don't know. Surina, is there any questions at the moment?
No, I can't see any questions. I also don't see any raised hands.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if you're not registered with MPAC, you can send us an email for more information. And then at this stage, I want to thank you for joining this webinar. And please remember, don't stress at the moment about the PAT. You can always email me. You do have my email address, or contact us for further assistance. Goodbye.